Welcome back to She Finds, She Funds, a Queensland buyer's agent and mortgage broker.
Each week, we'll talk about the lessons we've learned and the conversations that we think more people should be having.
Okay, so welcome back, everyone.
We're going to be talking about the costs that no one talks about regarding the buying journey, affiliated with the buying journey.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good word.
Oh, she likes the affiliated word. Yeah, we're going to be talking about the costs that I guess aren't as
Spoken about.
spoken about or on the front of your mind when you're going through the buying journey. So
Yeah.
good one today.
Important.
Very important. Yeah, so when we're looking at costs, most people do focus on like the deposit, their borrowing capacity, but not always are they factoring in, all the other costs associated with purchasing. So I think it's really important to think about that. A lot of the times, if you are dealing with a mortgage broker, they probably will factor it in, but just make sure that it is included because you don't want to get to the end and not have enough.
Yeah, that's fair because that's your one goal for so many years, probably to reach a certain amount, which might be 10, 5, 20% of a particular purchase price that you're aiming for.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are added things that you need to consider, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I have a highlight of the week
Okay,
before we get started. I was telling you before, I am now 13 days clean of buying takeaway like McDonald's and KFC.
That is really good, actually.
Yeah. So the catalyst was our chat with Catherine from Joyful Money. We're still raving about her, weeks on. But I just saw how much money I was wasting on the takeaway and also how much it was sort of affecting my health a bit, like brain fog and just feeling sluggish. So yeah.
Well
13
done.
days.
That's really good.
Yeah, thanks. I've got a little tracker on the fridge I colour in each day.
Well done.
Yeah, when I go a day without, being a pig.
You're not a pig if you eat takeaway.
You know what I mean. But anyway, I feel really good.
Well done. That's really good.
Thank you. Yeah. What about you? What was your highlight of the week, Sheena?
No, I had
Whose family? Was it your family or Jaden's family?
No, I had it's actually I say family, but one of my friends from high school. We've been friends for years.
Oh.
She is basically family, but her husband and her mum came up, and then my parents, well, my mum and my stepdad and my nan, all came down. So
Oh, that's so nice. Okay, so let's talk about when you start looking. Tell me why understanding your budget goes beyond your borrowing capacity. What is borrowing capacity? Let's just remind people, what is borrowing capacity?
yeah, so borrowing capacity in a nutshell is what you can afford to borrow. It's we look at like your income versus your outgoings and plug that all into a calculator. This is in very simple terms, and have a look at what you can afford to borrow, basically.
Yeah.
So that answers your question on what is borrowing capacity. But then the reason why it's important to look beyond that is borrowing capacity plays one part in it. It is what you can afford to borrow or repay. But the second part is how much deposit you've got, and then how much, and if you've got enough deposit to pay for the extra things as well. So, which will go into all of the additional costs that no one really talks about. But yeah, so it's really important to look beyond that because that plays a huge role in the purchasing as well.
Yeah, great. Can you tell us why having a financial buffer is just as important as having a deposit?
You can't give financial advice here, but the last thing you want is to just have enough to complete that purchase and then, something change unexpectedly closer to the date, or one of the costs might increase more than you had allowed to budget for, or something like that. So I think it's really important to include a buffer, so you're not left with zero. And also you want a little bit of an emergency fund there for once you do have the loan as well. Think if interest rates increase and you're already at zero now, you just want to have that buffer set aside as an emergency if you need as well.
Yeah, definitely. We'll just list off the
Costs
cost
associated.
associated with buying.
Yeah. So, when you're purchasing a home, you'll have stamp duty and government charges. Most of the time, like I said, I think I touched on this before, your broker generally should be including that when they're running their funds position document that they'll send to you. If you're unsure though, or just not sure if your deposit includes that already, always ask, because like I said, you don't want to get to the last minute and think, oh, I thought I was going to have X amount left over, but actually that's all going. Yeah, so it is generally factored in, but always a good idea to check, because you don't want to miss that. That can be quite a large cost. You've also got legal fees. A good idea to include your buffer, including that. Then you'll have on top of like your legal fees, you'll have any inspections you get done. So if you're ordering a building and pest report or
A pool
building a
inspector.
pool inspector, you'll know more
Yeah.
of these, but all the different inspections that you're looking at getting, or if you're, I know when we purchased a house, we got additional reports from our conveyancer just to check if a pool could go in or this or that. So
Yeah.
we got all these additional ones. So there was extra costs there. If you are thinking that you might have,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
yeah, just extra costs associated with that. You can ask your solicitor, of course, what their fees are going to be to make sure we're including that up front. Do some research in regards to building and pests, or if you're dealing with a buyer's agent or real estate agent, they might have someone they recommend.
Yeah, and hopefully they're fixed fees or quite a fair ballpark figure that they can give you to help with the budgeting.
Yeah.
I always recommend a fixed fee buyer's agent rather than the percentage based one, so you know exactly what you're spending, and they don't get paid more
If they
the
spend more.
property is more.
Yeah. Good one.
Yeah.
And then from a lending perspective, things like any application fees with the lender, if there's valuation fees, a lot of times we do get free valuations, but sometimes depending on the lender, it might not be. And then if you've got any lender's mortgage insurance as well.
Yeah. And how is that lender's mortgage insurance paid? Is that something up front, or do they tack it onto the loan?
Yeah, we can capitalise it onto the loan as well. From your perspective, what do you find that buyers often miss or don't think of?
I think the one that surprises them is the building and pest inspector report, like paying for the building and pest inspector. It's a security thing. Like, you know, I would never recommend anyone purchasing a home without having a building and pest clause in their contract.
Yeah.
Or if you're looking to buy at auction, getting your own independent building and pest inspection done. You can have a look and pay $80 to go and have a look at the report that the sales agent has got.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rely on that at
Yeah.
all. Go and get your own done, you know, $800 or however much around that, for your own, for peace of mind.
Yeah, agree. I think having your own one, like, yes, like you said, look at the real estate agents, but having your own one does provide a little bit more peace of mind.
Yeah, and then from that, if anything pops up, I have in the past then got a specialist in. For example, there was a water reading in one of the bathrooms, so we got a plumber in the next day because we had a really tight turnaround. I think we had a 5-day building and pest inspector. I had someone on call. They came in and gave us a bit of a quote to then take back to the sellers, and we were able to negotiate money off the price because we had a real quote from a licensed plumber.
Yeah.
Yeah, so having that time up your sleeve is handy, because people often try to harass the building and pest inspector and ask them for sort of figures about how much uh, the issues that have popped up will cost to
Yeah.
fix. Well, it's not really their job.
Yeah.
You've got to go, and then I recommend going and getting an expert to give you a written quote, because then that is even more leverage that will help you negotiate off the purchase price before you go unconditional. So during that time, I know this is a bit off topic but handy. During that time where you are under contract and you've got that 7 or 14-day building and pest clause in place, that is when you are finding out as much as you can about the property. Spend what you need to potentially save tens of thousands of dollars off the purchase price.
Yeah.
To, small investment for a potentially bigger gain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also like that, some of the trades might have call out fees, so that will be unexpected costs that
Yes.
arise during it.
Mhm.
So this is why we don't like
Mm-hmm.
people to have the exact amount with no buffer, because things like that do arise and you do need, and then if that contract falls over, then you might put an offer in another property and you need those costs all over again.
Yeah. And the other thing that is not talked about but is becoming more and more common is people getting a pool inspector in
Yeah.
to check the equipment of the pool, the integrity of the pool, and also can even give you an idea of how much it will cost to maintain it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So, Sheena, settlement day is here. You're booked in for 2 o'clock. What's happening?
We would hope this is organised in advance of settlement, but you do need the remainder of any deposit that you haven't paid to the agency, if there's an agent involved or whatever way the initial deposit's been paid. You'll need the remainder of your deposit available for the day of settlement. So that might either be in the lender that you're getting your home loan through, one of their transaction accounts, or it could be with your solicitor in their trust account. We like this to be set up, days in advance, because it can take time to obviously for money to transfer over, and we don't want to get to the day and it be stressful because we're still waiting for money to land. I'll try and touch base, a few, maybe 4 to 5 days in advance to make sure that we've got those figures, and then also touching base with your solicitor a couple of days before to confirm the actual figures that need to be in that account. And then also we always want a buffer again in that account, because if you're $100 short, that can delay settlement because they need to bring that, you need to bring another 100 over. So I always suggest another 2 to 3,000 in there as a buffer.
That's good advice. Yeah. I've had solicitors call me and say, hey, your client told me this account. We're trying to get ready and pull the funds, but it's not working. Can you get them to check? And they've stuffed up a number or they've given the totally wrong account.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeepers.
I
Yeah.
know.
So,
But it was well in advance, so they had time to fix it.
yeah. And that's the important thing. When you're in advance and you've got days, it's not as stressful. If it's the morning of and people are going to try and run around to banks or, to make it happen instantly, it becomes highly stressful. Everyone's anxious. We don't know if it's going to go through. So, yeah, having it in advance is really important. If you're dealing with a broker and they haven't touched base, that week or so in advance, reach out to them and just check in. Hey, what's my account? I need to have the funds in for settlement, and roughly how much are you expecting? Beyond settlement, though, once everything's settled, funds are gone out of your account, things you need to think about are insurances. That should already be organised as well. Once you sign a contract in Queensland, you need to have insurance organised within, I believe it's within 24 hours of signing that contract. Just double check that. It's within quite a close proximity to signing that contract. So ringing around and organising your insurance, get a few quotes. But that's an ongoing cost beyond settlement that you want to make sure you've factored in.
I remember recently, I always say recently, last year there was a cyclone in Queensland that didn't really eventuate, but there were so many properties that were under contract and on their way to settlement or handover. But during that limbo time, they were obviously still the old owners living in it, but we had to make sure, or a lot of people were reminding people that if you're just about to do handover or buy a property, hopefully you've got insurance on that new home that you're about to buy because you're liable.
Yes.
So you need that insurance when you're under contract. Yeah.
a big one.
Mhm.
You'll need to organize your utilities connections.
Mm.
Do that. Not on the day of settlement.
Yeah.
You don't want to get there and be like, I've got no power.
Yeah, no hot shower.
Again, costs to think about. Removalist costs.
Mhm.
That's another one to factor in. Not many people think about that. That's sort of like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that when I was budgeting for the purchase. So you want to factor those costs in when you're
Mm.
looking at beyond your
Mhm.
deposit. Some people will want a professional cleaner to go through, so that's
Mm.
up to them. But if you do want a professional cleaner, factor that into your
Before you
cost.
move in,
Yeah.
get rid of any bad juju.
Yep. Others like to change locks
Oh,
throughout the
that's a
whole.
good one. I
Yeah.
would recommend that for safety. I don't know, that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a big one, if it is all key lock, some people like to get the whole house changed.
Mm.
Another expense that not many people think of. When you go through the ones that not many people think of, it adds up quite quickly.
Mhm.
So you can if you can imagine, if you just had enough to make the purchase work, these other things aren't really coming into play here, and
Mm.
you might fall short.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if there's any immediate repairs that might need doing.
Mhm. Yeah. Hopefully you've negotiated that off the price,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, that'll help.
But if
Mm.
you've negotiated off the price, let's say you're going to buy it for, I'm just going to go random numbers here, 950,000. If you've negotiated it down to 940,000, doesn't necessarily mean you've got an extra 10,000 in your bank account
Yeah.
to spend on those.
Comes off the loan.
Yeah, another big thing, if your contract price is changing, let your broker know.
Yeah. Yeah. Good advice. Rewinding a step, one thing I think is important, obviously you've got your deposit. I know with quite a number of first home buyers, your deposit is around 5%. Um, in Queensland, on auction day, the standard Queensland contract for auctions requires you to pay, if you are successful at auction, a 10% deposit upon signing
Mm,
on that day. However, before auction day, you are allowed to negotiate a smaller deposit and have that agreed upon with the sellers. So don't try and agree upon that the morning of. That's something you have to do, a week or two prior to going to auction.
yeah,
And just usually, like they're going to say yes 9 times out of 10, unless there's some weird reason and they see you as a risk. I don't know why.
yeah,
But yeah, 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, yep, that's fine, 5% deposit. We will ensure your contract is different to everybody else's if you win. So
yeah.
yeah.
What about some hidden costs after they move in?
Kind of touched on it there.
Like appliances that might break down.
Yeah,
This is, I feel like it just happens.
yeah, yeah.
Dishwasher might go, and it's
Hot
not
water
necessarily,
system.
yeah, hot water system. It's not the seller has deliberately done it. It just seems to be a thing. Like it'll work for, sometime, and then boom.
Mm-hmm.
But like hot water service, dishwashers, ovens,
Fans.
fans, air conditioning. These are all big costs that can come up after purchasing, especially an established house,
Mm-hmm.
that you do want to have a bit of a buffer sitting aside, that emergency fund. You will want some funds aside for things that can go wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. You may want to get carpets and painting done. That's
Yeah.
pretty common
Yeah.
for people. Yeah, carpets I think is good to get done if you can, if you've got the budget for it, or I don't know, give it a go yourself.
Yeah.
Might be a bit of fun, memory making, bit of DIY. Yeah, for hygiene reasons, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we sold our last house, we put a new carpet in and then we moved straight out. So
Mm-hmm.
it went up for sale. So the people who bought it had brand new carpet. They might have ripped it out if they didn't
Yeah.
like it, and
Ew,
then it went to
who would
waste.
choose these colours? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if that's not, yeah, completely agree. Sometimes they're a bit grotty.
Yeah. Yeah, you may be, renting in an apartment and then you're upsizing into a home with a garden. You might have to go out and buy a mower.
Yeah.
Can highly recommend a Ryobi electric mower. They're pretty
Oh,
good.
we've got the same one.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah, whippersnipper, all that sort of,
Yeah.
I don't know, adult stuff.
Yeah. Furniture. If
Oh
you're a
yeah.
first home buyer, and now you've got to furnish, and this is the first time living out of home, you've got to furnish a whole new home.
Yay, IKEA trip.
Yeah. It is fun, but it does add up as well.
Yeah,
So
it does.
again, all of these costs really
Mm.
do add up to thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
Yes, you can do it cheap. You might look on Marketplace, you might
Mm.
do put
You could do what my brother does and go to the street curbside pickup.
collection. Yep.
Curbside
Which there's
pickup.
nothing wrong with any of that if you're
Mm.
willing to do that. But if you're hoping to furnish a whole house,
Mm.
these are costs that you need to factor into your budget.
Yeah. And a hot tip for Marketplace, if you, let's say you really like the brand James Lane, just type that into
Yeah.
Marketplace and you might get something that, is still for sale on their showroom floor for
Yeah.
so much cheaper. Or you can put notifications on in Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, if you want something for free that is like a certain description, it might be a table or something, and you can get a notification when the next thing that matches your search pops up for free.
Good one.
Mm.
Nice little tip there.
Yep.
Okay, Christine, what is a cost that you find buyers get surprised with the most after settlement?
The mortgage repayments.
Reach out, let's see if we can help.
Yeah. Yeah, the main thing I see is just repairs, like
Yeah.
ship breaks,
Yeah.
like a month or two out.
Yes.
And yeah, it's usually a hot water system. I always try to check that out when I'm inspecting to see if I can
Yeah.
gauge and ask the sellers when did they last replace the
Yeah.
hot water system. Yeah.
Sometimes it's just luck of the draw,
Mhm.
these things happen, but that's
Yeah.
why it's so important to have your little buffer there.
Mhm. Yeah, that's probably the main one that yeah. Or I've seen people who haven't got pool inspections and
Oh,
they've had to
yeah.
buy new pool pumps.
Yeah, and
Yep.
that again is expensive.
Yeah, they're probably two main things I've seen.
Yeah.
Sheena, what's the biggest financial mistake you've seen buyers make in the past?
I haven't seen anyone make this mistake, but I think you raised a good point before when we we're talking off this. Like people in that stage between going, under contract or under off unconditional to settlement, don't assume you might have a rough idea of how much remainder of your deposit, but don't go out and start spending all that money.
Yeah, on the couch and the fridge and the washing
Yeah,
machine.
wait until settlement so you know how much money you actually got
Good
now
advice.
left over.
Yeah, I like that.
You don't want to fall short for settlement.
Mhm.
How better planning can reduce stress during the buying to post settlement period?
Mm.
For me, it is factoring in all of these costs. Your mortgage broker can only do what they know, so they can factor in the costs that they're aware of. But if you are thinking of having, locks changed, changing flooring, buying furniture, all of these additional costs that you might not think are big to factor in,
Mm.
you can say, hey, Sheena, I want to spend 15 grand on bringing the place up to how I want it, or changing locks and doing this and blah, blah, blah. Can you factor that into my funds position? And I can pop that as a cost in there just to make sure, yes, we've got enough, and then you'll still have a buffer beyond that as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, I think it is really important to sit down and write yourself a list of every single cost. If anyone's like me, I love a to-do list. So I love ticking it off. Once it's factored in, you
Yeah.
can tick it off. And then you might have your items that are, wants but not actual needs. And if we can't afford those, then they're a future cost to factor in. And when you do that, I wouldn't put your nice to have items making your budget your funds go down to $0. I would keep them for a future and keep saving up into that buffer account
Post-purchase.
post purchase.
Yeah. Cool.
A nice buffer to have is really hard to say because it depends on every client and how that looks. But you definitely want a safety net, emergency funds aside.
Yeah. Alrighty, key takeaways from today's episode. I think for me, there's more than just the deposit and the purchase price
Yes.
involved in buying a property.
Mm-hmm.
Stamp duty, the government will never let you get away with not giving them a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else have we got, Sheena?
That
Stamp
is a big,
duty,
key
deposit.
takeaway is the
Yeah.
costs associated and making sure that it is factored in. Another thing to factor in, sorry, I'm jumping here, but if you're selling a property as well and then purchasing,
Mm-hmm.
is include all selling fees on that property. A lot of
Yeah.
people go, oh, my property is going to sell for this and I owe that. I'm going to have a deposit of X. And it can be a little bit out because they're not factored in the agent fees, the marketing fees, the legal fees, and if it's an investment, any capital gains.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Yeah, just factor everything in. Write down your list,
Yeah.
and you can share that with your broker
Mm-hmm.
and see how that looks, or if you're going to have to wait a little bit.
Yeah.
And
And ask a broker, what sort of things do I have to factor in if
Yeah.
you're about halfway through your savings journey? Yeah.
yeah,
Planning.
definitely. Planning is key,
Mm-hmm.
and having an emergency fund as
Yeah.
well.
And then once you've secured that property, other things might pop up.
Yeah.
You might want to change locks, you might want to upgrade carpets, paint, all of that, and do furniture shopping. So,
Yeah,
yeah, more money is needed for that.
yeah,
Mm. Yeah, cool.
perfect.
People say money doesn't buy happiness, but
Oh,
I don't know.
my husband says this all.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for listening again. If you're ever confused along the way,
Sorry. No, because we don't explain things. No, I'm joking.
if you're ever unsure along the way of if you've got it all factored in or you just want a little bit of a soundboard to bounce things off, reach out. We're always happy to have a chat, take a look at how that looks for you.
Great.
So remember, the more you know, the more you can do.
Thank you so much for listening to the She Finds, She Funds podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The information shared is general in nature and does not take into account your individual objectives, financial situation, or needs. Before making any property or lending decisions, you should seek professional guidance that's appropriate for your own circumstances. Christine Stoeckert is a licensed buyer's agent, real estate license number 4825177. Sheena Briffa is a credit representative 526921, is authorised under Australian Credit Licence 517192.